So the anticipation is building up. I'm going to get initiated, and I'm going to see Prabhupada for the first time. And then we're in Chicago, which was a little rough place, I guess, in those days. People were very American in a sense and defensive about it. If you didn't dress like an American and you didn't talk like an American, then you deserved to be abused. So we were 100% the opposite of what they thought Americans should look like. So, you had a few months to adjust to that, the shock that people didn't like you because you didn't dress like them. They were brutal in Chicago. They would arrest us on Harinam, arrest us on book distribution, even though the judge would always throw it out when we come in front of the judge. And police, everyone just went out their way to make you feel unwanted. So this is the scene, and at that time I am 19 years old. So they decide Prabhupada's coming, and we're going to go to O'Hara Airport and greet Prabhupada in the airport with kirtan. And I'm thinking, they're going to arrest Prabhupada. I'm 19, naive, I don't, but you don't question authority there much because I'm really low on the pecking order. But in my mind, I'm thinking, they say, why are they going to the airport to do this? This is going to be. So we go to the airport. There's probably 60 to 100 devotees with kirtan in the airport. And in those days, you could go up to the terminal. And I remember, of course, when there were kirtan and the media's there, and television stations, big scene in the airport. And I particularly remember the police because we would distribute books in the airport, and so we're always conscientious of the police and trying to avoid them or what are their reactions. And I'm looking at the whole scene, and I remember the policemen just standing over there with those faces. Like, I can't believe these people, or how dare they. Even the people walking through the airport are really just giving us the look like, you people, what is wrong with you? But the devotees are absorbed in just kirtan and anticipation of waiting for Prabhupada. And even myself, is the first time you're going to see the pure devotee, the person you've been reading the books or the person you've been serving. And the video gave you a little sense of what he's like, but it's nothing like what it is when you see him in person. I think that was really one of the biggest realizations I got when we finally saw him. So anyway, plane lands. It's pulling up to the terminal. I believe Prabhupada came off first. I think they would give him the courtesy of coming off first. And doors are opening, and the kirtan is building up, and Jai Prabhupada, Prabhupada. It's really, and then you see Prabhupada. He's in front somehow or another. Maybe I think one devotee, but there's not any. And of course, naturally, you're going to give that big reaction like you would when you're greeting someone. But the most amazing thing to me was his reaction. When you see someone who doesn't have a false ego, when he comes through, he doesn't react the same way we would. Like if I'm coming through there and there's 100 people having kirtan for me, either you're going to big smile, oh, thank you, or you're going to act like, oh no, I'm not affected. But there's typical reactions that everybody does, and everybody interacts like that. That's part of the social aspect of an event. Prabhupada didn't do any of those things. So it's mine, but you're stunned because I'm stunned. Look, I go, but you weren't offended. I can't describe. You have to be there. That's the only way you can describe it. You have to be there to see the interactions. Then you see that this person is transcendental. He is not ordinary. And in the video, you could see he was older, so you expect him to kind of walk like an old person. But he's walking just like a young man, with the cane. I'm thinking, he doesn't even need the cane. Why does he have it in the first place? And he's, it's just, I'm in awe, and you don't know what to do because he's not reacting the way you expect. So you just kind of stand there like this. And I see him come around the corner, and he's turning. And as he turns, I catch those policemen that were standing like this. Now all of a sudden you see them, they're serving, they're walking with Prabhupada. Stand back, move back, making everybody move. And they're totally changed. Everybody's changed. The TV reporters, all the karmis, all that defensiveness, that offensiveness. gone. And of course, you know, in the airport, at least that time, he went straight to the car, a little bit of an interview in the car, and he left and we ran back to the temple. But I remember afterwards in the airport, those policemen that were there, attitudes totally changed in the airport. They weren't anymore, you know, harassers like they used to. Well, I heard with the exception of one person, someone said, they said a few weeks later he died from heart attack. The only one that didn't change. But the rest of them, just from seeing Prabhupada once, that was it. That was it. So that's that moment's association with a pure devotee. I think it was maybe I don't know if I made it back to the airport in time or maybe it was the next day, but now he's in the temple room, and this is the 75, so this is when Radha Damodar buses were there, and it was a huge gathering of devotees, which generally didn't happen from so many temples. So the temple room was packed up. There's too many devotees there. And somehow or another, I got myself in a position where, you know, I'm right in front of us, Prabhupada's coming in to greet the deities. So, of course, you know, I'm just in awe, and I'm just standing looking like this, and Tamal Krishna's kind of leading a group there with Sudama, I think Vishnu John Swami, and some others are there. Anyway, I guess he's seen my enthusiasm. He gives me Prabhupada's chutter and cane to hold. So I get to get kind of an entourage there in the back, a nice little space behind Prabhupada. I'm thinking, wow, this is really great. You know, I can't believe it. And he goes up to Gaur Nitai's altar. At that time, it was just Panchatattva picture, no Gaur Nitai deities. And Prabhupada lays down and pays full obeisance, which to me is another, you know, even now I can't do full, I'm too old, but he does full dandavats. And his feet are sticking out. So I believe before Prabhupada came, Tamal arrived, and he gave us this instruction. Whatever you do, don't touch Prabhupada's feet, because he doesn't want to get sick, and people are touching his feet and they're getting sick. And I remember thinking to myself also, like, well, he's going to initiate me. How is he, you know, what's worse, initiating me or me touching his feet? I don't get this, but I'm Bhakta Nate, so what am I supposed to be arguing about? So I'm standing there, and somehow or another, I get this voice, this inner voice, says, you should touch his feet. I said, no way you can touch his feet. We're right here in front of the deities. And he said not to do it. I'm not going to do it. No, I'm not going to do it. But, you know, I want to do it, but I'm not going to do it. And then after I saw them pay their obeisances, there's no room for me to pay the obeisances because I've got all the things and I'm right behind them. Like, oh. And then the voice says, if you don't touch his feet, you're never, ever going to get this opportunity again. And besides, nobody's going to see you. They're all paying obeisances. So I said, okay, I'll do it. I'll do it at the next altar. So he goes in front of Kishore. He goes down. And I gently go down with my head. And I just touch the bottom of his feet. Very softly, and I come up. Tamal Krishna Maharaj saw me. I couldn't put another thick on the look. I got caught. He looks at me with those fiery eyes. And he takes that chutter and cane away from me. And I'm standing, you know, what can I do, you know? Prabhupada didn't say anything. He didn't say anything at all. Anyway, many years later, then when I was telling you before, I was talking with Brahmananda, and I talked about that also. I told him how, yeah, I put my head on Prabhupada's feet, and on the bottom too. I mean, that was, he looked at me and says, you did what? I said, what did Prabhupada say? He didn't say anything. He said, I saw in Vrindavan, India, someone did that. And he turned around and he just lit him up, you know, for touching his feet in front of the deities. I guess he saw it so new, he just, you know, he didn't say anything. It was, and he, you know, went to the Vyasa-san. I took the fan. I'm fanning him too. It was just so anyway, I got a little extra mercy there. Somehow or another, Krishna let me. I don't know how many devotees can say they touched Prabhupada's feet, but I didn't just. I got the bottom, the dust. So forgive me for the offense in front of the deities. Also during that period in Chicago, of course, having so many devotees there. Devotees weren't accustomed to having a large initiation, even though the Evanston Temple was considered a big temple room in those days. But at that time, they were going to install the Gaur Nitai deities for the buses and initiate all the devotees. As a matter of fact, there were so many devotees that they arranged it in such a way that the women couldn't get initiated. There was no room for them. Anyway, afterwards, they complained to Prabhupada, so he made them do it a second day for them. But the first day, there was no room for them. So anyway, we're in there, and the initiations are going on, and you can imagine there's multiple lists from different temples. Things are getting a little chaotic. And then one thing you definitely notice with Srila Prabhupada, he did not like to waste time. So as initiations are going on, they're calling people up. You can see he's getting a little, hey, come on, let's get this thing going. By that time, they called me up. My name is Nathaniel, Bhakta Nate. So, of course, I knew a month or two before I'm getting initiated, and I'm thinking, you're going to get some cool names within, Nityananda, Nardamuni, Nrsinga, you name it. And you can't go wrong within Narayan, something or another. I go, man, I can't wait. So, like, Bhakta Nate. I come up, and of course, I'm walking a little proud in front of Prabhupada. And what are the rules and regulations? How many rounds do you chant? Answer everything very nice. And he's reaching out with the beads. He says, and your name is Sikhi Mahiti Das. And I'm shocked. I think Sikhi Mahiti, what the heck is that? It don't even sound like a name of Krishna. But I'm not trying not to look disappointed. And actually the whole room was kind of quiet because Chaitanya Chaudhary was just, I don't think it had come out yet. They haven't published it yet. So then he explains, he says, Sikhi Mahiti was one of the 3.5 most confidential servants of Lord Chaitanya. He's looking at me right in my face. And I'm still looking disappointed. He goes, and it's a very nice name. And I take my beads. And I'm like, man, I can't believe Krishna just smashed my ego. Sikhi Mahiti. Anyway, at least it's a unique name. You don't meet too many people with that name, so I can be grateful for that. But to this day, even Indian people, what is your name, Prabhu? Sikhi Mahiti Das. Oh, what does it mean? And they don't even know what it means. So it's a name more popular in near Orissa, in that area. So there, if you say Sikhi Mahiti, nobody will ask you that. But outside of the area, nobody knows. Anyway, I thought I'd just throw that in there. All right. That's it for me and Prabhupada outside. Mayapur, the last Goparnim he attended, February 1977. My first time coming to India. And anyway, I got to kind of tell a few things to get up to that, I guess. But I wasn't even, generally they schedule Sankirtan devotees to go, and it really wasn't scheduled. But I planned in such a way, I wanted to get my Brahmin initiation from Prabhupada. I thought it would be great to get it in Mayapur. And from Prabhupada, it's like, you can't beat that, So anyway, I called my mother, who wasn't favorable in the beginning for me being a devotee. And I just, at the last minute, say, okay. Because they say, if you get your own money, you can go. Which meant you didn't take Sankirtan money. You get it from your relatives. So I called him, I need $1,500 to go to India. She goes, okay. I said, thank you, Krishna. I said, I got the money. You can go. So anyway, that was one of those years where they took the 747 full of devotees, which is a whole other story in itself. That was, probably heard that 1,000 times, but that was, I thought devotees went like that all the time in India. Great trip. So at that time, I'm thinking also now, I want to get closer association with Prabhupada if I can. Because being a new devotee, our mood was to serve, not to enjoy the Guru. And as your service required, you would rise up to the point where maybe you're part of the intimate, more closer circle of Prabhupada disciples that are working with him to manage the rest of the movement. So, or maybe you do something kind of extraordinary, which in your service that Prabhupada will recognize you and maybe call you for something or I want to see him. So, all of us are working like that. So especially generally the service of book distribution or the library party, or in India, of course, those devotees were working hard to build up these places. So, of course, Bhakti Tirtha was very fortunate in that he was able to, through the library party, do extraordinary things that got him close to Prabhupada. And anyway, I couldn't wait for that moment. I wanted some close association. So as we're coming on the bus from the Calcutta airport, I'm thinking, I guess I got to figure out something. I got to see Prabhupada. And so when the buses arrive, Mayapur is in its infancy for sure. Just the Lotus building, a little bit of the Long building, most of it's under construction. The gate is up with the wall, the Prasadam hall way down on the end. There's nothing, chickpea field. And again, I get that inspiration. Hey, if you're going to see Prabhupada, you better do it now, because nothing, they were told us, when you get off the bus, go find a room. And I said, this is my opportunity. Everybody's going to be looking for rooms. I'll go see Prabhupada. And whatever room's left, I'll take that. So I just immediately ran up trying, where's Prabhupada, where's Prabhupada? And they gradually, I got to where his room was in the Lotus building on the second floor. And I walk up very confidently, and there's some sannyasi there I didn't recognize. There's someone obviously in India who didn't come to America. I said, I want to see Srila Prabhupada. He's like, well, you come back later for darshan. And I became so disappointed. I said, they're not going to let me in for darshan. This new devotee. And I'm walking away, and I'm looking at the configuration of the building. I said, there must be a back door. So I go the long way, all the way to the end, turn around, come back, and sure enough, there's a back door, and it's wide open. And Prabhupada's sitting right behind the desk with his leg up, one leg up, and his arm resting on it, and he's speaking to two, it looks like local Bengali people, because they're in pants and shirt. And this is, of course, February 77, so his health isn't well. At least it looked like that to me. Who knows, maybe he's some transcendental symptoms, you don't know what period. But he's sitting there, I haven't seen, in America, he's always very kind of upbeat. And actually, sorry, when he came to India, he would be very grave most of the time. So I just sit, I don't go in the door, I sit in the doorway. So I don't go in, and I'm content just to sit there. Wow, Prabhupada's right there, I'm so happy. And Bhakti Tirtha, who was Ganesham at the time, is in the room. And I kind of know him briefly from Chicago and interactions, and he sees me sitting there, so he says, come on in. Well, happily I come in, and I go to the corner, and I know I'm not supposed to be there, so I just, let me sit quiet and not disturb anything, and I got my beads, I'm just chanting very softly, you don't know I'm there, I just want to be in the room. And I'm seeing Prabhupada interact with these people speaking in Bengali. So I think within about 5 or 10 minutes, it was time for them to go. Prabhupada kind of motioned. And the door opens, I'm watching them walk out, and I catch eyes with that Maharaj. He catches my eyes, and he's got the face like, you rascal. I just turn and I look at Prabhupada. And I'm just, please don't kick me out. I'm not going to disturb anything. I just want to be in the room with you for some time. And internally, I'm thinking like this. And I hear the door close, and it's just me and Prabhupada in the room. And so he's sitting back with his back against the wall, and he just closes his eyes. And it appears like he's resting, just resting like that. And I'm just chanting japa for a while. And within about 5 or 10 minutes, some other GBCs come in, Maharajas are in and out. And the conversation is very grave. I've never seen such a grave tone. Of course, I mentioned America, Prabhupada's always pretty upbeat. And then gradually over time, I don't know what the period of time was. To me, I think it was probably an hour or more. The room starts to fill up. Devotees aren't leaving. They're coming in and sitting down. And Prabhupada's, I don't know if questions are being asked or if he's just talking, but it's very serious conversations, very grave. And the room begins to pack up a little more. And devotees themselves, too, they're very, you don't know how to react because at least for me, you never seen Prabhupada like this. You don't know what to think. So gradually, eventually, you're watching all the movements of Prabhupada. He kind of looks over as the doors beginning to open. And these Madhajis from New Vrindavan, I can't remember their names, but they were famous for traveling in the van and selling Prabhupada's books. Like the men were doing. We had Radha Damodar, but they had a ladies' party from New Vrindavan. And, they're performing the same austerities, if not more. At least we had a bus with deities you come back to with morning program, there's somebody's cooking for you, maybe you have to shower outside, but these girls would pull up behind the gas station, sleep, get up in the morning, open up the water tap, take their bath outside, cook for themselves, go out and sell books. Really, if you think that's some austere service. And of course, they were well known in the movement for that, and they were getting big results. So anyway, the Mataji kind of sticks her head, and it looks like there's no room, and she's going to leave him. As soon as Prabhupada sees her, I remember his face just lit up. Just like instantaneous. He's just so happy. He's like, move. He's make room. And he brings them in. He sits them right in front, three of them. And immediately he's just laughing and he's joking. I don't remember the conversation, but the whole room just became, a big, everybody's just happy and laughing out within a second. Even though he looked like he was so sick before, all gone. Totally just, this is transcendental person. They're not the body. So one lesson I kind of got out of that, because again, like I mentioned in the beginning, the devotees' moods were always, not that so much, at least for me, we didn't want to try to enjoy Prabhupada, but you want to be recognized from Prabhupada. And it was amazing to see how pleased he was with these devotees. He was so pleased with those devotees. So many years later, of course, that was 1977, I met that one devotee. I can't remember her name. But anyway, she's in New Vrindavan. That was probably in 2009. And we're all talking about Prabhupada memories, and I told her about it. I said, you remember when you were in Mayapur? I said, yeah, I said, you remember coming into that room and you poked your head in? I said, what you didn't see was how Prabhupada transformed when he saw you. I said, he was so happy with you all that he just became like, he was just so joyful. Instantly, before you came in that room, it was just very grave conversation. And actually, she said, I didn't know that. She thought the whole conversation had been like that the whole time when she came in. So, but anyway, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. And the quality that stood out for me the most was this, how he was equiposed in all situations. Doesn't necessarily mean that he was always just calm, like the standard view people have of, you see nowadays people think transcendental means you walk around with this stare on your face and nothing bothers you and you walk slow and all these things like that. But all the emotions were there all the time. But at the same time, the effect of those emotions were not like how they were for people who are not pure devotees. He was still the same loving, joyful, determined, purpose person. In Chicago, especially I'd say some Chicago, Detroit, Mayapur, and he's on the Vyasa-san, and there's, surrounded by hundreds of devotees. And you can see he's fixed on his mission or his life. It's not like he's, let's have a good time now. So happy we're all together. Ha ha ha. And yet no one else feels like you need that also. Sometimes in their social interactions, you feel obliged to, I have to make you feel good. You have to make me feel good. And if neither party does that, then somebody's offended. But you see Prabhupada come into the temple room, and even there's older devotees there are devotees from the 60s standing there. He just walked right by. Not that he's stopping. Oh, hi, how are you? Haven't seen you in a long time. How's everything? Hope it was good to see you again. And you never seen them feel like, oh man, Prabhupada didn't speak to me. I can't believe he walked right past me. Nobody felt like that at all. Matter of fact, you felt like I'm hindering him probably. I don't want to get in his way. I don't know, that's a quality which doesn't exist really. You can't imitate it. You cannot imitate being a pure devotee. You walk like this, I talk like this, I hold my beads like this, I say like this, or I do like that. We want to come to that platform which comes of its own accord as you get purified. So sometimes for me, you hear people talk, oh, you have to chant your japa like this. And you can't imitate love. You cannot chant your japa with love. You can only chant it with the love you have. And over time, it will purify you. So just seeing that in Prabhupada, even though sometimes he's on the Vyasa-san and he looked like he's upset or something. Actually, if I could lead into a pastime on that, there was also in Chicago, we were, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds, you got a lot of energy. So generally, it was known you shouldn't dance so wild and crazy. You should just kind of Swami step, maybe you could jump a little bit. But me and another devotee, we just couldn't help ourselves. I'm sorry, we couldn't help. So we were maybe infamous, you could say, for doing hot foot and all these crazy things. And temple president always, hey, you stop that. Don't you know what Prabhupada said? So then we run to another corner and just kind of do it by ourselves. And every now and then the whole temple would break into this crazy dancing. And okay, we won't do that again. But man, that sure feels good. So here we are in Chicago, and of course everybody wants to please Prabhupada. That competition was there. He kind of built that competition up with the book distribution. So in those days, Radha Damodar is probably getting a lot of the attention because they're traveling and they're selling books, and those brahmacharis are the sannyasis. And here the brahmacharis in the temple, considered, wimps because you're living with householders and you don't get to travel with sannyasis. So there's this little competition you see naturally when they arrive. So Prabhupada's on the Vyasa-san, they finish greeting the deities, Guru Puja is going on, so everybody begins to dance. And we're starting off very nice and gentle, and you see Prabhupada smiling a little bit and looking around the temple room. And someone, I don't know who began, but someone began dancing a little bit unorthodox. And Prabhupada looks over and he smiles a little bit. Somehow or another, we take that to mean he likes it. So I remember across from Radha Damodar devotees, they caught wind of that. Oh, okay, so they start doing something a little more unauthorized, you can say, than what they were doing. And Prabhupada looks over there and he's shaking his head like this, Indian way. So you don't know if that means yes or no, but we take it to mean he likes it. Now the Chicago devotees see that. So they, it begins to escalate. And Prabhupada's like, he's shaking his head and he's smiling. And at that time, I had broken my leg, so I just come out of a cast. Normally, I'm the person that leads all that heavy dancing. But I couldn't do it because I don't have much strength in my leg. And I'm wanting to. I'm thinking, here's my opportunity. I could jump out there and do that really crazy dance I do in front of Prabhupada. But by Krishna's grace, my leg was not well and I couldn't do it. So my godbrother, Ramakili, he decides, I'll take the lead. So there's a big opening so that Prabhupada can see the deities. He decides at that point to go down the middle of the aisle doing this twisting dance. He used to do like the twist kind of, I can't even do it in here, but up and down, back and forth, and Prabhupada's still going like this. He's shaking, he's laughing. And the devotees think, oh wow, he's really enjoying it. By that time, Radha Damodar devotees forget it. We're not going to get any more crazier than that. Finally, Prabhupada stops the kirtan. And he says, you never see Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda dancing like this. He says, like this. And then he whips his hand like that and starts the kirtan back up. So anyway, you'll hear different versions of that, depending on who you talk to. Some say he's chastising. I don't remember that. I really don't. Prabhupada never really just blast a whole room full of devotees in front of the deities. I just remember it was like this escalation where he's really, and he just gave the instruction, and we stopped doing it, and it went right on, and nobody felt really offended, and we all began to jump and dance, in the midst of that. So, kind of in that way, his qualities of, I don't know, he's transcendental. You can't be like that. It's just Prabhupada. So, Prabhupada ki jai.
Je anilo premadana Koruna Prachu